It's time for Coffee with the Chicken Ladies, a podcast for people who love chickens.
Hey everybody and welcome. It's Christie&Holly from Coffee with the Chicken Ladies. We're here and this is episode number 19 of our podcast where we talk about everything chicken, family, fun, and
more chickens.
More chickens! We drink a ton of coffee. I'm talking a ton. But most importantly,
we hug our chickens every day.
Every day and kiss them too, don't forget. We brew coffee from a little coffee house here in Bel Air, Maryland. Coffee. Holly Ann, what kind of coffee are we brewing today?
I believe this is house blend.
House blend, yeah. It's so good and yummy. If you are a fan of delicious coffee, homemade scones, cookies, and everything else you can think of, and you're local, go ahead over to Coffee. You will not be disappointed. Okay, how are you doing?
I'm okay. Our listeners are going to be hearing this episode 2 weeks from now, so this will be an ancient history, but it's been a crazy weekend.
Oh my God, on all ends.
It really, and one of the biggest things was we lost power yesterday.
Not fun.
No, so Pete and I keep these, they're almost like battery packs. It was enough to keep the heat light on our brooder for about an hour.
Those winds were
crazy windy.
Crazy. It flickered multiple times here.
Right.
And I was like, oh no, please don't let us lose it too.
Right.
But yeah, it was a crazy windy day.
It was. And so, again, we have those awesome battery packs, and that kept the heat lamp running for about an hour, and the power came back on. Perfect. And then it went back out an hour later.
Yeah, for a few hours.
Yes. And so we had to scramble and pack up the chicks and get the car super hot, and we took them over to my mom's.
You know, that is a very good tip, which I did not think about until you said to me, Pete, sitting in the car with the chicks.
Right.
Is, say that happens to you. We know this from never put your dog in a car.
Right.
The car is a lot warmer with sunlight.
I think it would be, although he was measuring the temperature and it didn't get above 85 in the car.
Obviously, he did not have the heat on 100 blasting out of the
I don't think his car will go that high.
You could just turn the car on for a little while and blast the hot air.
Well, it was enough for us to get the babies over to my mom's.
Yeah.
We took a tub, and get the heat lamp on them. And they were fine.
They wanted to go to Grandma's house.
They wanted to go to Grandma's. They had a good time. They started dust bathing and kicking sawdust all over her living room.
It kind of messed up our whole routine. I think it's one of the first Fridays that we haven't recorded.
Right.
In months.
Yeah, and that was why, because no power and chicks.
I was like, oh my God. So, yeah.
Ancient history now, but at the time, wow, that was very stressful.
I think in one of our 14 conversations the day before,
yeah,
I even mentioned, remember in the morning I was like, we always check the brooder light first thing?
Yes, we both do it, yeah.
I think we talked about that the day before.
Probably. I get out of bed, I open the door, I look down, oh, the red light's on, yeah. So, just a side note, if you live someplace like I do that's heavily wooded and the power blinks a lot, it's usually much more of a winter and late summer problem. We did not expect it in the spring. And the answer here is that Pete just ordered a triple powered solar battery pack for us.
Oh, yeah. If you're going to have chicks, you got to have some way to supplement that heat, especially chicks that are just a few weeks old.
Right.
They're not ready for coldness at all yet.
Absolutely not.
So, yeah, we had the same winds. It was horrible. But it was warm, but just super windy.
Yeah, exactly.
It was one of those days. I'm going to take just a minute to tell everybody about Iowa Blue Farm. It's a woman-owned, family-run, all-natural chicken treat company in the Midwest.
And we love supporting those woman-owned businesses.
We do. We're that business ourselves. They make 100% all-American oven-dried black soldier fly grubs for all kinds of poultry.
Chickens.
Turkeys.
Ducks.
Peacocks.
Pheasants.
Quail. Any kind of poultry need. They run for that blue bag. It's a treat that you can feel great about because of something we learned about from Fiona. They are fed on no animal byproducts whatsoever.
Absolutely. And they're grown right here in the U.S.
And if you're in the UK, this is one of the very few things that you could feed your chickens.
That was a fascinating little fact. Yeah, absolutely. So top quality.
The other thing is we do have a code over there at Iowa Blue. And if you're listening to us and you want to try them, go over to the website and you can put in under code coffee, all caps, 25, and you will get 25% off your first purchase site-wide.
It's a fantastic value.
It's a really, really good deal. And if you want to go ahead and give them a try, go over to iowabluefarm.com and check them out. Once again, coffee, all caps, 25 to get 25% off. They are baked with love.
Shipped with care.
And shipping is always free. So now we have to move on to our breed spotlight. Shoo!
Just when I think you can't come up with anything else. Okay.
I have to come up with a new one all the time.
You got it.
I mean, what would it be without a new breed spotlight?
I do not know what it would be.
I mean, and we're doing a very kind of fancy breed.
We are. One of the most recognizable chickens out there, in fact.
And one of the most loved chickens out there.
Yeah. Today we are talking about the Polish chicken.
Polish chicken. Yay!
And they're so recognizable because they have that amazing, fantastic, fabulous crest.
It's huge.
It is huge.
They're the type of chicken that everyone, when you take a look at this chicken, you're like, whoa, yeah, they're so cool. And the thing that they're known for is the crest.
Right. And they're also a very, very old breed. They're probably related. They might even be the foundation stock for a lot of the other crested European breeds, including the beautiful mottled Houdan.
They're currently on a watch category at the Livestock Conservancy.
Yeah, on the poultry conservation list. They're in the watch category. They could go one way or the other, especially in light of the fact that they're doing another poultry census right now.
Which is strange to me, because I feel like this breed of chicken is popular.
So it's entirely possible that they will move up into one of the other categories.
Yeah. It's out of like a watch into a...
maybe recovering.
Recovering,
like that.
exactly.
So we'll have to see once the census comes in.
Now, this next fact that Holly's going to say actually blew my mind when I read it also, and we were doing research.
Livestock historians believe that the Polish chicken did not develop in Poland.
What?
Instead, it is widely believed that the Polish chicken originated in Spain.
It doesn't speak Spanish. What is it doing over starting in Spain?
Whoa. How do you know it doesn't speak Spanish?
I mean, come on. It's called the Polish chicken.
Right. Well, it gets better. So it originated in Spain and then was taken to the Netherlands. Some of the sources for that are that multiple oil paintings dating from the 1600s, and I love this, that have Polish chickens in them.
And they're in Spain.
I think all over Europe.
All over Europe.
And so all this leaves me is wanting a portrait of a Polish chicken to hang above my fireplace.
Which would be ridiculously awesome.
How happy when you come in the front door, you see this portrait of a Polish chicken. Life is good.
And you say, where are the eyes? Her poor little eyes are covered. She needs a bang cut.
Just give her a little trim.
She needs her bang trim.
A little barrette. Okay, so the Livestock Conservancy notes that the name Polish actually came from the feathered caps that Polish soldiers used to wear.
In which we've looked up.
Yeah.
It doesn't really remind me of the Polish chicken.
I know, it's just a little...
It's a feather.
It's like a feather cockade.
So it's kind of like, their hat, and then they had a feather hat up, which would be, I guess, representative of a crest.
I guess. So the American Poultry Association Standard of Perfection notes that Polish chickens were also known as crested Dutch.
Okay, so we have a very well-traveled chicken.
But it gets better.
Oh my God.
So our old friend Charles Darwin...
Yes.
He further confused the matter by referring to all chickens with top knots as crested or Polish.
Okay. So every single chicken who has a crest is basically a Polish chicken.
Yeah. But they're a distinct breed. They really are a distinct breed.
They are a distinct breed, but it's so funny to me, and I'm sure other people listening to this, when you hear Polish chicken, you're expecting that we're going to be like, and this chicken started in Poland.
Yeah, no.
But it does not. And it's very interesting, and there's little windy roads that take you on when you learn about these chicken breeds and learn the history of it, which you never would have thought.
Yeah, it is really interesting to me, too. They were accepted by the American Poultry Association back in 1874.
Long time ago.
Yeah, and they breed true. They're definitely a distinct genetic entity. And then different colors and varieties were accepted by the APA in succeeding years.
Okay.
Now, you wouldn't know this because you can't see it very easily.
This is one thing that I like about them.
Yeah. So they have the V-shaped comb that shows up in so many of the early French breeds.
One of which is the Creve Coeur,
which
we talk about a while back with Jeanette Behringer from the Livestock Conservancy.
That's right. You just can't easily see the little V-shaped comb under that amazing crest.
That is a really cool, that is a distinct comb.
It is.
When you get the V comb, you got the V comb.
Yes, but it gets better. Some varieties of the crested Polish are bearded as well.
Okay, you got a crest and a beard going on. You got a lot going on. A lot.
Yes.
I love these chickens.
Oh my goodness.
They got like a little of everything for everybody.
You know, like all the other breeds that we do, as soon as we do a breed spotlight and we learn all this stuff about them, we kind of want that chicken as well.
Well, you start looking at them differently and you're like, oh, now I understand that.
Yes, it's true. When you can put them sort of in a context and you can see a lot of things about them. One of the things about them is that they're a lot smaller in size, like a leghorn.
Okay.
And they come in a variety of color combinations that are just fabulous. The black crested white.
Gorgeous.
The white crested black.
All of them.
They're all fabulous. White crested blue. And they're also silver, golden, white, and buff laced Polish.
I think it kind of goes. Everybody loves the Polish chicken.
Yeah. And they're well known as an ornamental fowl, a show bird. But here's the thing. They are excellent layers of white eggs.
When I looked that up too, I was like, 200 eggs a year?
Yeah, they're really good layers.
For a bird that is kind of known as, like kind of a good family bird.
Yeah, they're sweet and gentle. They're ornamental.
And also ornamental show bird.
Right.
To lay you 200 eggs a year.
Yeah, it's impressive.
That is pretty impressive. They got like the best of all worlds.
Well, they have white earlobes, so there may be some Mediterranean mixed in there, especially since they originated in Spain.
Pearl earrings.
Exactly. So you have your white earlobes, you have gray legs. Also very Mediterranean, non-setters, do not go broody.
I gotta back up.
Okay, we're backing up.
They got a crest.
Yeah.
A beard.
Yeah.
White earlobes, which is pearl earrings.
Right.
I mean, they are like decked out.
Yeah, they're pretty fabulous. They really are fabulous. I keep using that word, but they are.
I have a word that's better than fantastic and fabulous.
What is it?
Fantabulous.
Oh my God.
It's both in one, and that is this chicken. I mean, honestly, their personalities also are very good.
Yeah, they're very nice.
So they're great for your family. I mean, you got a snazzy looking chicken there.
There's so much good about this bird. And I can't believe I haven't paid that much attention to it up until now because they're just kind of amazing little chickens.
They really are.
They really have two potential issues, and they are tied to the crest.
Right. When the crest comes down, you got to check in there to make sure nothing's hiding bug-wise in there.
Right. Do a louse or mite check regularly. And also, you need to protect them from the elements because the ice and snow can get in that crop.
The other thing is, which is actually common sense, is the crest itself can cover their eyes and they can't see.
Right.
So free ranging has to only be supervised.
And even then, I think you need to keep them very close by.
Or just kind of keep it a little more trimmed. It won't be the traditional look.
Yeah, clearly you can't trim a showbird's bangs, but if he's, hanging out in your backyard, one of your pets, you obviously can do that. The crest can obscure vision and leaves them vulnerable to predator attack, but also bullying from aggressive flock mates. And that can make them nervous and easily startled, which again is that unfair skittish or flighty label. It's because they can't see.
It's not one of the stronger breeds that's going to be at the top of the pecking order.
No, they're very calm and gentle, very friendly.
And this is where we go back to all the time, designing your flock to what fits for you.
Absolutely.
Personality-wise, for us, is number one.
Yeah, it definitely is.
You want to make sure, because we've been down this road where you don't. And it's not fun.
No, it's not.
When the girls are like picking on each other.
Right.
So you have to kind of mesh your chickens all together. You want to kind of put all your easygoing breeds together.
Yes.
Because that way they're more on an even ground.
Right.
You don't want to put like my Cuckoo Morans in with the Polish.
No, I really wouldn't want any dominant personality breed in with the Polish, I don't think. They're so sweet and gentle. So they're not a bad breed to have around kids.
No, it's great. It's a great family.
You probably have to watch. Again, a little one running up behind them might startle them.
Right.
But they're generally really genial and easygoing.
So this is one that we would say if you're a family and you want to have a backyard chicken that's really part of your family, this would be a really good idea for you. Yeah. But it's going to take a little extra care grooming-wise. It's not going to be a bird you're going to put out in a run and just be like in and out and kind of that's it.
They're cold hardy in that they have all those extra feathers.
Right.
But they don't have a huge body mass because they're more like traditional Mediterranean frame.
Right.
So you probably would want to watch them in the cold again, protect them from getting ice and snow in that crest and getting wet.
Exactly. So if you're interested in this, there are definitely groups There are way more breeders that are more widely available at this point.
Definitely. If you were interested in breeding them, I would suggest you go to the Livestock Conservancy and check out the breeders directory.
Yep.
But I believe that the Polish has become a lot more popular lately.
Oh, yeah. And there's a lot of social media groups that you can join for this chicken.
Yeah. Hatching eggs are also fairly plentiful. If you want to incubate some eggs or use a broody hen, you have that option as well.
So we're talking about the Polish chicken, and we're on Instagram, and there is a fellow Instagram account that we wanted to mention because their chickens are so gorgeous, and they breed these Polish chickens, and they're in Pennsylvania,
right,
kind of close to us,
exactly.
probably within an hour or two, and it's Crested Chicken. If you're interested in seeing these chickens, follow them on Instagram because their pictures are fabulous. We love them, looking at them.
At Crested_chicken, and they look like they primarily raise white crested black. They're fantastic.
When they show pictures of them just like hatching and they have those crests like already.
The babies. See like that photo there? The babies have that giant crest.
Oh my God.
They're the cutest.
They're the cute. Like I cannot resist these
This really
pictures.
is one of our favorite accounts.
It
These
really
girls
is.
Are fabulous.
They are. So do yourself a favor. If you want to see like Polish chickens all the time, follow this account because it's really cool. I think we should move on. So what we're going to do now is bring in Fiona. She is, I like to call her our superstar international correspondent. And we're going to have coffee.
I like that.
From across the pond. What we're going to talk about today, we talked about last week about whether or not you should breed and the pros and cons of doing it different ways.
Right.
And this week, we're going to talk about the selection of the cockerel and some important points in choosing a really good one. So here we go. Let's bring in Fiona. Hey, Fiona.
Hi, how are you?
We're
doing really well over here. It's cold today, but spring is coming, so we're happy.
And we have chicks, so we're really happy.
Chickies.
I'm quite jealous.
So we want to learn all about how to choose our roosters.
Yes, but there's cockerels in the UK.
I know. I just wanted to make you say it.
I think we decided I need to say cockerel.
Yeah.
Cockerel.
Cockerel. I will practice. I'll get it right next time. Cockerel.
That's the Baltimore way to say it.
Cockerel.
Yeah, you got it perfect. It's perfect.
I'll get it right. The thing is, you've got me started saying rooster now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. Oh,
no, it's fine. Don't worry.
Most people do shorten it to roo.
I say roo.
Roo.
A lot.
And because we're Baltimore, we don't say roo. We say roo.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a roo.
So let's start with some of the main attributes of the roo cockerel rooster that are going to, what he's going to bring to the mix and what he needs to bring to the mix to be a good choice.
Well, there's 5 main things that I'm actually looking for. So I'm looking for temperament, conformation, interbreeding, fertility, and size. And that's really kind of in order of their importance. So temperament is the biggest thing. It's the most important thing to us. He has to be nice. He has to be calm, and he's got to be good with the hens too. I don't want a cockerel who's going to be chasing the hens and constantly forcing them to be trodden when they don't actually want to go through that process. I want him to do his little dance, make a little love, get down tonight.
Get down tonight.
Baby.
Yeah. So that's really what we want. He has to be gentle.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to clarify. We're talking gentle with the hens and also humans, or is that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
but our cockerels, we hatch our cockerels, so they know from day one that we are actually higher in the hierarchy than they are. We've never had a problem with the cockerels not being nice with us.
That's awesome.
Are these just your Orpingtons? Have you bred any of your other breeds?
Well, we don't breed any of the others, but we do hatch them all. We never bring an adult bird or a live bird onto the property.
Okay.
That's part of our biosecurity structure that we've got to make sure that the hens and the cockerels stay as healthy as possible.
Sure,
so we only ever bring fertilized eggs onto the property, or we use our own fertilized eggs, and we basically hatch everything here.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
it really
beautiful.
is. It makes perfect sense.
So after you select temperament, go again in the second.
Conformation is the next one. So we want them for the Orpingtons, because we're breeding Orpingtons to sell. They have to meet fairly well the breed standards. And actually there is an Orpington club in the UK and they publish breed standards. So the cockerels need to be broad, they need to be sturdy in stature, they have to have feathering to below the hock joint, they've got to have little wings. So if you ever see an Orpington, they do look like they've got little dinosaur wings. It's really quite funny. They are so close to the T-Rex. It's really quite terrifying.
It is.
You know, the little arms.
They do look so little wings and lots of feathers.
Yes, but very broad in the chest and very broad on the back as well.
Okay.
So I always think of them almost like a football, almost spherical in shape. Even the breed standards talks about being broad and wide. It's really like a football, to be quite frank.
That's a great visual to think of, to think of the body that way and how that they need to be.
So the equivalent here is if you were breeding here, you would be using the American Poultry Association Standards of Perfection, unless, as I told you in email, I keep going back and forth, breed my Swedish flower cockerel, and there are no standards of perfection in the United States for Swedish flowers.
Really?
No, because they have not been admitted by the APA.
Yes, because they're so new over here, basically, that there's not enough time to put them in there.
I'm guessing at that point you either find a club where they might have some idea of the standards of perfection.
Well, where did they originate? Which country did they originate in? Is it Sweden? It may be worth looking at the Swedish site, or if you've got any Swedish contacts on Instagram or Twitter, get in touch with them.
They were a landrace breed, so it's kind of been an anything goes approach. I'm just muddying the waters with that. I should probably...
Well, there's two ways to go. There will be a breed standard in Sweden. I can almost guarantee it. The country of origin nearly always has the basic breed standard.
Right.
But you could also look at what people who are willing to buy them in the US are actually looking for.
That's true.
So
that's a very good point.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, thank you. No, that's helpful. It is.
I mean, it's interesting in the UK when you talk about the buff Orpingtons, the buffs are actually becoming more lemon Orpingtons, I think, in a lot of regards. But our buyers are very much looking for the very gingery Orpingtons.
The classic buff.
Yeah. The classic.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, my two are I feel like they're more of that color too. They're not like the lightish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is very important if you want to keep the breed standard at the highest level so that the breed continues its integrity throughout time.
Right.
Now our next thing is interbreeding.
We are very, very careful that we always hatch a new cockerel every year. So we buy in fertilized eggs from a different breeder. And what we normally do is we actually buy 2 sets of eggs from 2 separate breeders, just in case there's any issues which we weren't aware of. And that then gives us a good choice, and we'll hatch a number of cockerels. We will look for the best 2 from both sets.
Okay.
And then we will actually then test their fertility. And we will do that by separating each of the 2 cockerels into a separate pen with a number of hens. We will leave them for 10 days, and that's to make sure that we're absolutely certain that any eggs produced have been fertilized by that particular cockerel. Then we'll incubate the eggs for 7 days and we'll look for any growth.
Okay.
I can imagine that would be such a letdown to just jump in without testing the waters first. And then you have a cockerel that basically,
not viable for whatever reason.
Yeah, shooting blanks.
So many people do. But actually what you find is a lot of breeders want to sell fertilized eggs because it's actually quite lucrative to sell fertilized eggs.
And then the last thing was size.
So once you've got a rooster who is really very nice to you, really, really nice to the hens, you know that they look good, they've got that nice wide girth, you know that they're not related to any of the hens, you know that they're fertile and they're not shooting those blanks.
Yes.
Yeah, you want the biggest cockerel you can get your hands on.
Size matters.
Size matters.
Yeah.
Fiona, does the breed standard for Orpingtons have like a minimum weight or an ideal weight?
Yeah, so the Orpington Club breed standards are for the males. The minimum weight is 4.5 kilos, so that's 9.9 pounds. The females are 3.6 kilos, which is essentially 8 pounds.
Okay, those are both big. And for a girl,
that's a good size hen right
there.
there.
That is really a good size hen.
Yes.
Cockerel.
Yeah. We've only got one Orping. Actually, no, we've got 2 Orpingtons, which are below that minimum.
Okay.
And that's because one was the original Orpington that we bought, and she didn't really come from a very good breeder. And she's 8 years old now. And the other is Frankie, and she's never eaten properly. She is handicapped.
Right.
She had an accident when she was a chick, so that's why she is not the minimum weight. It's not her genetics at all. It's simply she does not eat enough.
Okay.
I definitely want to weigh Buttercup and Bubbles. They definitely seem like they are upwards of 7 to 8 pounds.
They are big hens. They really are.
They really, really are. Both of them.
They look like they're big from your Instagram feed. They do look very large.
I love the videos of yours. I love them. I love the slow-mo. It's the best.
Do you like the slow-mo flying? They are fantastic, aren't they?
Yes.
Nothing beats an Orpington in slow-mo. It really is the best.
It is. Their little faces, and then
they think they can fly, but if you notice, the flying slow-mo has to be off the top of the ramp to their coop, because otherwise they'd never get any height. They're so big.
Never get anything. Their little wings can't hold all that body weight up. They're like, no. Wings. They're like, oh.
Bless them.
I have to say, the Buff Orpingtons are one of my all-time favorite breeds, which we already know because in episode 2, I do a little gushing on them.
A little bit.
Just a little.
They are so friendly. I have to say, if we didn't have Orpingtons, though, I would have the Brahmas.
Yeah, I am in love with my Brahmas. I feel like I will never be without them.
My neighbour has some Brahmas, and I just gush over them every single time I see them.
Are they the lights or the buffs or the darks?
They're lemons.
Oh. Okay.
They are very, very beautiful. They've got a lovely mix of white and golden yellow feathers. They're really beautiful.
I have to say, though, the Faverolles, adorable.
Oh my goodness.
I'm anxious to see how their personalities will end up.
So little beards on the Faverolles. I love the little beards.
So the cockerel himself is very important to this process. The hen is important in all the same ways.
Apart from the fertility bit, you're always testing the cockerel fertility. You're never testing the hen's fertility.
Right. And it's a good practice to check all of these things because you don't want to overbreed your own stock. And we should put this out there. You have to go outside of your family to get a cockerel because if not, your genetics are going to be way messed up.
Yeah, the laws of genetics don't change for chickens. I know that a lot of people are happy to interbreed for 1 or 2 generations, but I'm of an opinion because I'm breeding to sell chickens.
Right.
And I don't want to be selling stock which could be genetically inferior to my buyers. I just don't think that's fair. Sure. So I'm going to make sure that the cockerel that I'm breeding from every single year is always unrelated to the hens.
So I think that's a good idea for everyone who's thinking about it, just to go through these things. We'll have them all on our show notes.
Right.
So that you can be aware of how to pick your cockerel and know that you're doing it at the utmost standards because it's important.
Unless you're talking about a critically rare breed, there's no reason why you can't switch up your genetic lines.
Right. Okay. So thank you, Fiona. That was so informative. I love talking to you.
It's fantastic. And now
it's so much fun.
I have another chicken that I must have.
Holly's got another chicken that she's going to have.
Well, you're going to have to order some more chicks then, aren't you? Or I'll have to smuggle some out from my neighbour and try and get them shipped to you somehow.
Yes.
No, we're coming. We're coming over.
I think he might notice, though, because he's only got 4 of them.
Oh, gosh.
He's like, what's gone? Oh, no.
I'm going to have to get my hands on these.
Okay, well, take care, and we will see you soon, Fiona. Cheers.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Fiona. As always, it was great.
It was wonderful. Okay, so now today for
cracking the eggs.
We have a treat for everybody. We are going to talk to Christina from Baking with Chickens. Mm-hmm. And everyone probably, if you're on Instagram and you know her, you'll probably know her as Baking with Chickens. And she also has a YouTube channel.
Yeah, with great videos.
Great videos. And she makes all these fantastic baking recipes with her own chicken eggs. So she has come up with a recipe for us. Mm-hmm. And we're bringing her on today to explain it. So let's bring you that interview now.
Welcome, Christina.
Welcome.
Hey, chicken ladies. I'm so happy to be here.
We're very happy to have you.
We are so happy to have you with us today. We have been eating the donuts too.
The donuts are amazing.
I'm so glad you like them.
Christina sent us chocolate matcha donuts.
All the way from LA.
And then chocolate donuts with coffee in them and sprinkles and everything good. They were fantastic.
Oh my goodness. So good. And with our coffee, you don't get any better than that. Come on now. And the best thing about this recipe is it's gluten and dairy free.
Yeah, it is really fantastic. The perfect complement to coffee.
So Christina, start us off. Let us know what you named the recipe and how we should do it.
Yeah, so I made these chocolate mochi donuts. So because Holly requested a dairy-free and gluten-free, I thought mochi donuts would be fun because donuts are perfect with coffee.
Yes.
And
yes.
Yeah, because I'm like, what would go really well with it? And so mochi is a glutinous sweet rice flour. Mm-hmm. And I used Mochiko, which is, you can get it at any Asian grocery store. And it's just basically like a rice flour made from sweet rice. But if you can't find an Asian grocery store, Bob's Red Mill has a sweet white rice flour that you can also use. It's the same thing.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah. And what's really cool is it gives it a little chewy texture. So typically when you eat like a baked cake donut, it's like soft and puffy. With the mochi donuts, it's crispy on the outside, or it's kind of like hard and crunchy on the outside. And then on the inside, it's like soft and chewy. Mm-hmm. And so there is coffee in this recipe so I use a little bit of instant coffee powder in with the chocolate donut because the coffee brings out the chocolate flavor. So that's the secret of a lot of chocolate cakes is a little bit, just a tiny bit of instant coffee brings out the flavor.
And then coffee makes everything better.
Coffee makes everything great. So these donuts got us through. We've been working like crazy.
It was a marathon day, yeah.
Oh man. And we were like, thank you, Christina.
You're very welcome. Yeah. And they do have eggs in them. Yeah. Here, I'll tell you what goes into them is it's 2 cups of Mochiko flour, which is, if you don't have it, you can substitute it with regular flour or almond flour would also work, or coconut flour.
Right.
If you're looking for gluten-free. Brown sugar. I use dark cocoa powder because I just happen to really like dark chocolate because I don't like the sweetness and it kind of brings it down a bit. 2 tablespoons of instant coffee, baking powder to get the rise, salt, and then I used vegan butter. I really like Miyoko's. It's a really great vegan butter.
Mm-hmm. I think I have it in my fridge.
Yeah. Earth Balance is another good one, but like a lot of people said the flavor and texture of Miyoko is really good. And then for the dairy, I used coconut cream and oat milk. So oat milk is a really great dairy substitute because it doesn't have a strong flavor to it. So it's and you can kind of change the texture to it. Like it's either like lighter or if you use like the barista style, there's like more milk to it. Right. And then of course 2 large eggs because what's baking without eggs for the lift and the flavor.
The eggs.
And then vanilla. And then I put in some rainbow sprinkles because rainbow sprinkles makes everything more fun in the donuts.
Okay. I am a huge fan of sprinkles. So, and my daughters are both fans of sprinkles. So when they ate the donuts, of course I can't get donuts in here and not them eat them. So they were like, oh my God, it's rainbow. And I'm like, okay.
So you do need a donut pan to bake them in, but you can buy them. They're pretty easy to buy on Amazon, anywhere. So for the glaze, I did the glaze a bit different because I've done donuts before and I just did melted chocolate. But for this one, I wanted that like chewy, kind of like a black and white cookie. So I used the chocolate glaze from my black and white cookie recipe because I actually don't like black and white cookies. I think they're gross.
Really?
And I redid the entire recipe and I call it my better black and whites. And it's made with better ingredients. So it tastes better and it's involved, but it's worth it if you don't like black and whites, but like want to like get that flavor. So the glaze itself, I also did with oat milk, powdered sugar, agave instead of corn syrup because ick to corn syrup, and then cocoa powder and melted chocolate.
You use such wholesome ingredients that you're going to feel good about eating a donut.
You say that, and yet I also make things like Fruity Pebble cookies. So,
which are, I'm like, I'm nuts over these Fruity Pebble cookies.
I'm equal opportunist. there can be good ingredients, good and wholesome.
Fruity Pebbles in it.
Yeah, I'm equal opportunist. There can be good and wholesome ingredients, and then sometimes you just got to go for it. Like, it just is what it is, and it's delicious.
Yes.
Yeah, I was in the grocery store the other day, and Joe, my husband, he was like, is that Fruity Pebbles in your cart? I'm like, oh, yes.
And this was after she had seen your Fruity Pebble cookies.
Did you make the cookies?
No, I just been eating bowls of Fruity Pebbles.
You know what else is really good? Fruity Pebbles Rice Krispie Treats.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
It does. And we were not kidding when we told you Christina has a very, very creative style.
This is what drew us to her, is because we love people who are original and creative, and you are that in a nutshell. And we just love working with you. It's so much fun.
It's fantastic. So we're going to share Christina's recipe.
Wait, plus she kisses her chickens.
Oh,
yes.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yes. I am a new, my name is Christina, and I am a chicken kisser.
Yeah.
And hugger too.
And hugger. Well, okay. So what was it? A couple of years ago, there's all these articles coming out about people getting salmonella and because of their backyard chickens, and people are kissing their chickens, and that's why they get sick. And I remember reading this article, and I was saying, I'm like, don't be dumb. Don't kiss your chickens and you won't get salmonella. Duh. And then I am now the person who kisses their chickens.
And now you have chickens.
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
So we're going to have this recipe.
Yeah, we're going to have the recipe in our show notes. So you can see Christina's amazing gluten and dairy-free donuts. And of course, they can be non-gluten and dairy-free as well.
You can make them non.
And we're just going to ask her a few questions. We're going to get to the chicken portion of this party now.
Here's the thing. Yeah, the chicken. We usually have retail therapy.
We do.
But because Christina's with us today, we wanted to change it up because this girl's special. And she has done something that we would all really be like, yeah, hands up in the air that she did. She rescued a rooster. So today, instead of a retail therapy, we're going to do a rescue spotlight. Yeah.
New segment, new song.
So
you guys need a jingle.
I'm just a jingle in a body. We did come up with some questions for you that basically have to do with dude. Holly, why don't you go ahead?
Well, our first question was simple. How long have you had your chickens?
I have had chickens for 4.5 years. Nice. And dude is my first rooster. So when I wanted chickens for a long time. I've really been into like the farm to fork kind of food movement for a long time. I've worked in restaurants, and having chickens for fresh eggs was something I've always wanted. And I finally moved to a house where I had space to have chickens. So Mr. Baking with Chickens built a coop. We got some chickens. They're rescue chickens. And then at the time, I was like, no, never getting a rooster. We're just having hens just for the eggs. And, my neighbors are going to hate us. No roosters. And then somewhere along the chicken keeping journey, I just started warming up to the idea. On Instagram, I started following more people who had roosters, especially Lipstick and Chickens, who always advocates for keeping house roosters. And a lot of people have roosters. And I was like, okay, maybe that wouldn't be so bad. And then I ended up rescuing these 4 chickens this last fall. So my original flock of chickens were starting to age. They're hitting about 4 years old. They're slowing down from laying eggs. And I knew that I always wanted to kind of like tier and get some more fresh layers.
Right.
And I don't like to buy chickens or chicks. That's just my preference, mostly because I don't have the wherewithal to deal with baby chicks and raise them. I don't have the space. And I really wanted to make sure that I got hens, like pullets, and not a rooster.
Right.
And somehow there were some chickens running around in my neighborhood, and I've become the neighborhood chicken catcher here, and people text and call me and I show up and I catch chickens and then I keep them. So I'm maxed out, no more.
So your chickens were just kind of like in your neighborhood, and you're just like, okay.
Yeah. So my four newest chickens were wandering around in the neighborhood, and I saw it on like my neighborhood forum, and someone's like, whose chickens are these? And it was during a heat wave, and it's like over 100 degrees here in Los Angeles. So it's really dangerous for the chickens. And there's coyotes and hawks and raccoons.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But both of the chickens were both sets. Like there's kind of like, it was 3 and 1. And they kind of came together at the same time. And they were just wandering around for a week in the heat wave in the mean streets of LA. And I came out and tried to catch them, ended up catching them. And they happened to be hens. Actually, one of them I didn't know. I wasn't sure. I saw them and I was like, okay, these are young pullets. I want to keep them.
Right.
Because the hard part about rescuing is you never know how old they are. You don't know what comes with this chicken.
Right. You don't know the 100% history.
Exactly. Are they sick? Do they have diseases? What are they bringing? So that's the challenge. I definitely had to quarantine them, but I caught them. I quarantined them. And I wasn't sure. This one particular chicken, everybody said, these two are hens. This one's definitely a roux. Because I like playing that game. It's like hen or roux.
Yeah, we all do.
And somebody was like, no, that's definitely one. And like, we kind of watch and then we kind of heard something like crowing. And I'm like, no, there's no way. It couldn't be. And we kept playing this game until finally they all started laying eggs. I'm like, okay, there are definitely no roosters. But through that experience, the idea of having a rooster kind of started taking root inside. And I was like, okay, like it wouldn't be so bad to have one. And my dream has always been to have a silkie. I love silkies. I think they're so funny. They're little Muppets and I want one so badly. But because I kind of have this firm rescue chicken situation, it's very difficult to find a rescue silkie hen.
Because usually people, and people who are going to get silkies usually are in for the long haul. They're chickens that need additional care. A lot of times they end up house chickens. So usually you're going to get a person that's not a fly by night person that's going to get a silkie. So it's harder. Yeah. But I mean, you can imagine there probably could.
There are definitely silkie roux in the rescues. But if you're trying to find a hen, it's a harder for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so that's why I was like, well, what if I got a silkie rooster? That would be fun. Like that's possible. There's a lot of roosters in the LA shelter system. And, and it doesn't mean that it's impossible to find the breed of chicken you want when you rescue. You just have to be patient is what I noticed. Exactly. Like very patient to wait and find the one that you want. And so I started it was kind of around Christmas time and I was just perusing the adoptabirdnetwork.com, always lists all of the different chickens that are available for adoption. I was checking the LA shelters. I found a bunch of cute silkies and then I saw this hilarious Polish rooster named Dude. And I couldn't resist because when you see a Polish rooster named Dude, and he's so cute. Right. And I kind of ignored him for a bit and I was like, oh, I don't know. And I wasn't ready to commit. And then he showed up again and he came up for adoption again a month after I first saw him. Oh. And so I was like, okay, that's a sign. So we decided to just do it and adopt him. And I picked him up from the shelter 2 days after Christmas. And the shelter, all of his paperwork, everything says he's healthy, he's good, he's ready to adopt, he's fine. But when I got him home, he was so sick. He had been in the shelter for over a month. He was adopted, returned. He'd been beat up, like half the feathers on his head were ripped out.
We've been watching. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we've been watching your story as it's kind of played along. You've kind of put it out on TikTok, on Instagram, and you've done an amazing job, honestly.
Thank you. It was way more than I intended. I just thought, I'm like, great, I'm going to adopt a rooster. We're going to quarantine him for a month and we'll put him in. It'll be fine. But he was so sick and he had respiratory issues. He wasn't eating on his own. I realized he was covered in lice because I was holding him and like giving him medicine and I felt something crawling on my neck. And I'm like, what is... And then I saw them crawling on his face and I was like, oh God, no.
That's super fun.
Oh my gosh. So this poor chicken, I mean, roosters have a bad break, especially here in LA. If you live in a neighborhood where you can't have roosters and a lot of people order, especially here in LA, right? You order chicks and you don't know if they're going to be a hen or a rooster. And then it's hard to rehome. It's not a lot of places, especially here in Los Angeles.
Same thing on the East Coast. Our shelters are full of roos. Yeah. And that's why we're trying with us to promote like, hey, it's not always a bad thing to have a roux. You don't always have to dump the roux unless there are restrictions in your neighborhood that, why you can't. But it's not like all of a sudden you get one and then you're like, oh no, here we go. They can be good boys.
Yeah, they can. They get a bad break. And, even if you get one with a little attitude, generally if you work with them, you can get around it.
And the fact that you're willing to go out there and rescue one, we love that. I mean, that is like, to me, heroes rescue and, it's like great. And all your chickens are rescues. That's awesome.
And with Dude, it was one of the things where I was like, well, we live in a place where I can have a rooster. There's roosters all like people in my neighborhood all have chickens. And like, I'm in this like city in LA. Like I'm fortunate with some space, but there's a lot of roosters. So I was like, well, if I have a rooster, there's others. Nobody knows where the crow is coming from. Exactly. It's going to be fine. So I felt that because I can have a rooster, it would be great that I can give one a home. So we're very happy to have Dude.
With Dude, how many total chickens do you have?
I have 8, including Dude.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good number. That certainly gives you plenty of fresh eggs.
Is he out there now? He's out with the girls?
He's with them, but he is separated. So he only gets supervised conjugal visits right now.
He's a little bit of a lover.
He's a young teenage rooster. I don't think he's a year yet because his spurs haven't grown in, and he's very awkward. He does not know how to romance the ladies. It's very, and so again, because he's my first rooster, like this is very funny to me. All of this is hilarious. Learning to understand a rooster is so different than hens. And his behavior is so different. So understanding him, but I put him in with them and it seemed to be good. He was really happy, but my newer chickens, they're pretty mean. So it's a good thing I didn't get the Silky because they would have eaten him alive. They're hen pecking poor Dude like crazy.
Oh man.
They decided that they needed to give him a haircut, a bloody haircut, a la Sweeney Todd, and pulled that. So I put him in, and the next thing I knew, I saw him, and like half his head was bloody again after his beautiful feathers had just grown back in.
Do you have any idea what breeds the new chickens may be?
Yes. So the newer chicken, they are the younger ones, and they're the ones who are very aggressive and mean. Okay. But not to me. Like they're energetic. I think it's because they're young.
Personalities.
Yeah, lots of chickens are great with people and chicken bullies, we call them.
The ones that are being mean to him I have 2 California whites, which is a cross between Leghorn and Barred Rock. It took a while for me to figure this out. They look like a Leghorn. They're all white, but they have black specks. I know they're California whites because like they look just like a Leghorn. Okay. And like I look at the picture and that's exactly what they are. And apparently that they're really popular here in California because they were bred to be excellent egg layers without the flightiness of the Leghorn. So they have kind of like, I forget what, it's like a mix between a Leghorn and a California gray, which is all new to me. I was like, what are these crazy chicken breeds?
They're cool looking.
They really are like, they're like freckled.
Yeah, they're just like a Leghorn with some black specks, and they're great egg layers. They lay like these creamy, pinky white eggs. But when they're maniacs. Like they're little food maniacs. They're crazy. And so like, they're kind of like the head chickens in charge. So when Dude came in, like they like him, they don't mind, but they're just like, ooh, you have head. What is this? So he's my only crested chicken.
This guy's got a toupee.
Yeah, so he's the only crested chicken. And so what I've learned is a lot of chickens are like, oh, what are you? You look different than me. Let me go investigate. Oh, let me yank out your hair.
Right, I'm going to try your delicious edible toupee.
They're like, is that real? Is that real?
That's a tasty to find out if it's real.
Yeah.
Poor Dude, my goodness.
He is the cutest thing. So
but even Dude, I mean, the hard thing with rescue chickens is you don't know what breed they are, right? Like it's a big guessing game. So when I got Dude, a lot of people were trying to guess what he is. And so Polish was the most popular. And then a couple people guessed Houdan, which is another like fancy Polish, but he's not a Houdan because he doesn't have a beard and he only has like however many toes he has. It doesn't match.
The Houdans are modeled. So they have a lot of spots. Does he have a lot of spots?
He looks like a splash, but not like a show splash. Like he's gray, white, and black.
Okay, so it's more subtle. Okay.
He is super cute.
He's ridiculously adorable. And I think Polish are really sweet. And apparently your ladies are just giving him some big attitude.
He'll figure it out.
With all of that, what's your favorite thing about keeping chickens?
My favorite thing about keeping chickens is really seeing their personality and the flock dynamics come out. That was something that was really unexpected for me. Right. As I got them and got to know them, each one has a very special little personality. Mm-hmm. And really getting to know their personality has been my favorite part. Their personalities come out in our episodes and on my Instagram. Mr. Baking with Chickens does their voices, and they're absolutely hilarious. I was saying something on an episode on the Rose Raspberry Cake Bar episode, and I sounded like a TV infomercial. And so he edited a clip together of the chickens doing an infomercial for their freeze-dried worms. So one of the chickens is like, worm cookies. I want worm cookies. Like, try our freeze-dried worms. So I promised the chickens I would make them worm cookies, but I haven't gotten around to it yet.
They will come and make you keep that promise.
Oh, yeah.
Delicious worm cookies.
Oh,
Yes.
Uh-huh.
What was your inspiration for starting your YouTube channel?
The chickens really was the inspiration because I kept the chickens and I was working full time and I was doing all this stuff and I was really busy. And they were, even with just 3 chickens I had at the time, it was still more eggs than we could eat. I took a break from work and suddenly I had all this time to bake. And I was like, well, these chickens lay way more eggs than we can eat. So let's bake with them. And I had always felt growing up that I wasn't a good baker, that I was a better cook than a baker. And tell me if this sounds familiar. I'm a better cook than a baker because I'm not precise. I'm not scientific. I don't like to measure. And
exactly.
And so I tend to bake like I cook. And I like to just kind of throw things in and not always measure. And I'm not very precise, but I enjoy that, right? It's definitely a muscle that I am now exercising and I'm teaching myself to bake a lot more. And I enjoy baking. And I was beating myself up for a long time for not being measured and precise. But this is now I just have my own style. And sometimes I come up with delicious things and sometimes it totally fails. And I learn something from it about baking science.
But it's so much fun. And you do such a great job with this YouTube channel. They're fun to watch. It's fun to learn.
It's a lot of fun.
The eggs. Do you notice a difference with your fresh eggs and your recipes?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The fresh egg, it's just better. It's like eating an out of season tomato, right? Like an in season, fresh, summer, juicy tomato from the farmer's market or one that you grew tastes different than an out of season one that you buy from a grocery store. And it's the same thing with eggs. Like, and I buy plenty of grocery store eggs in the winter when they stop laying or if I'm making huge projects. I do buy grocery store eggs, but they do make a difference. Like, it's just, there's a richness to it that tastes different. Mm-hmm.
We call that the walk of shame here at our house.
Do you hold them in front of your chickens and be like, look at what I had to do?
So
you made me go to.
Sometimes we have less eggs around Christmas time when we're trying to bake all the cookies for Christmas. And then we're like, girls, come on. And then I'll send my husband out and he'll say, I have to go take this walk of shame. Like, how much money have we spent taking care of these chickens?
Yeah.
And then we have to go buy a dozen eggs for cookies.
Like, come on, man. You got to give them their winter vacation.
People who have chickens are like, oh, this is amazing. You must save so much money on eggs. And I was like, oh, no.
They just don't know.
No. Well, and here in LA, there's a farm called Apricot Farms in Malibu that sells these beautiful farm fresh eggs, but they're like $15 for a dozen eggs at Erewhon Market or the farmer's market. And you're like, what the heck? But considering the cost of land, feed, chicken, like it makes sense. Like if I were to sell my eggs just to break even and cover my costs, it would have to be $8 a dozen.
Or more.
Or more.
I think more. The 15 dozen probably.
Well, considering dude's vet bill was $500. Yeah, absolutely. And he doesn't even lay eggs.
We're like, you're costing me all this money and you're not even going to lay an egg.
You know, that's funny. The biggest vet bill I ever had for a chicken was also for a rooster.
You're like,
it's true. Yeah.
You're like, what kind of work are you doing? You're having fun out there all day. And then you're costing me hundreds of dollars in a vet bill.
But I mean, I think the point is, right, we don't keep them for their eggs. Yes, the eggs are a wonderful benefit, but the way I like to look at it is they're delightful pets that also poop food out of their butts. Like, I love my dog. I love my cats. And I spend lots of money on them, on their treats and food and vet bills, but they don't produce food. So technically, the chickens are the most useful out of all of the pets because food and fertilizer comes out of their butts.
Holly is no good over here.
That was the most elegant summing up that I've ever heard.
And they eat all of your kitchen scraps. So they compost, right? Like the cats and the dogs don't compost my leftovers. They don't provide food out of their butts or fertilizer. So really, if I had to pick one zombie apocalypse pet, it would totally be the chickens.
Oh, sure.
Sorry, cats. And like, I love the cats and the dogs, but they're just not as useful.
So my parents are kind of like, they're always prepping for like doomsday stuff.
Right.
And they actually gave us like this powdered food. This is off the subject, but powdered food that lasts like 25 years.
And I'm like, are you kidding me here? I have chickens. And they're like, yes, but everybody's going to come after you because you have chickens. And I'm like, look, I'll be sleeping in the bed with chickens on my head.
So when the pandemic started, I would take walks around the neighborhood and I started mapping like resources around the neighborhood. So like urban foraging. So I'd be like, okay, this house has citrus trees. This house has a pool. So I know I can get water. And then also I was like, okay, where are all the other chickens? Because if I need to go steal chickens or find roosters to like populate my flock during the zombie apocalypse, this is where I go. So I still have it on my Google Maps, like all around my neighborhood. I've like mapped out where all the resources are.
Hilarious. When you think about the fact that if there is, an apocalypse of some sort, you do have a rooster.
Yeah.
I mean, the girls might pick one, but you have one and he can do the job.
He can, yes. So now could have more. That's the number one question. When I say I have a rooster, everyone says like, oh, are you going to have baby chicks now? And I'm like, no, I don't want baby chicks. But I also said I didn't want a rooster. So who the hell knows?
Yeah, exactly.
Who knows? But he would make very adorable babies. I'm tempted.
When we talk to our friend Fiona, who's in England and she does a lot of breeding, she says the number one thing is temperament of a rooster.
Yeah.
That they
That's
have
their
to
first
be
criteria.
Yes. He has to be super sweet to the girls and to humans too. And that's their number one thing in picking a rooster.
Interesting. He's kind of turned into a bit of a jerk, to be quite honest. When he was very sick, he was so lovable and so cuddly, and he'd climb in my lap and like we'd cuddle and I'd pet him and like very sweet. And then as soon as I put him into the chicken yard with the hens, like he's turned into a total jerk. He attacks my shoe like once a day.
That's the hormones and the naturalness of the testosterone coming out. Any rooster's going to do that. So if you take him out and he's still sweet to you, that's good.
Yeah, he's, I'm like, you know what? Like, this is what he's supposed to do. He's just trying to protect his girls. Like, he's trying to like assert. It's fine. Nothing. He's never hurt me. It's okay.
Meanwhile,
like, I can still grab him, but it's just funny because I think
he needs protection from the girls.
Yeah. Like, I sit there. I have to supervise him and I sit there and I watch him. And then if one of the girls tries to yank out his hair, I have my little hose and I squirt them with the hose so that they
are chicken bullies. I've been out there with a water bottle because they say when they started to use a squirt bottle. Remember, Holly, I took a picture of myself with the squirt bottle.
With the squirt bottle, and you remember.
And I sent it to you, and I'm like, I'm ready with the squirt bottle.
Bully chickens can really mess up flock dynamics.
Oh, totally. So, what's one of your all-time favorite recipes?
Oh, tough question. I don't know if I have an all-time favorite. I like to try different things. I rarely make the same thing twice, even baking and cooking. I will say my favorite resource for baking recipes, honestly, is King Arthur Baking. Their recipes work every single time. My favorite gingerbread cookie during the holidays comes from them. My meringue recipe, because if you've got lots of eggs, got lots of egg whites and you have to make meringue. Like I've made more meringue in the last couple of years than I have in my entire life because I constantly have all of these eggs and egg whites. And meringue used to be just my Achilles heel. I could not get it right. It would weep. Things would fall apart. It wouldn't rise. And I followed the King Arthur baking meringue recipe and it was perfect.
Nice.
Yeah. Do you think maybe having the fresh egg whites has something to do with your success?
Possibly, but I have not done a test to the scientific test to really compare. I've also had fails with meringue using the fresh eggs. I think it's just understanding the science of meringue and how it works. Temperature, humidity, sugar has a big thing to do with it. And if you're not measuring and not doing temperature like I used to, then things will inevitably fail. But now I can get the most beautiful silky marshmallow meringue, and it's my favorite thing in the whole wide world.
That sounds fantastic.
You've scientifically gotten the recipe going.
Right.
I am no longer afraid of meringues, which is a huge accomplishment.
What was the biggest inspiration in your life that pushed you towards cooking and baking?
Can I say my chickens? Is that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course.
That's a really valid answer with us.
I'm baking for sure. I've always cooked a lot. My mom always loved food. She cooked. But I feel like that's so a cliche, like my mother. But absolutely. We baked a lot when we were kids, but especially baking, I would say the chickens have been a big inspiration because I wouldn't be baking this much and I wouldn't have started baking with chickens and a YouTube channel without all of their eggs because I have to find up creative ways to use up all of these eggs.
Right.
And, there's only so many scrambled eggs, frittatas, and poached eggs that I can eat. And then it starts getting uninteresting. So a lot of times it's like, okay, I've got eggs. What can I make? And I like to work backwards from there. And, they're the best inspiration. And you know what? Even when they stop laying eggs, it's still an inspiration because then I can say, all right, now I don't have any eggs. What are some vegan egg options? So playing with flax eggs. So what I like about it is it's really talking about ingredients and understanding where they come from and appreciating it. Because when you understanding how much effort it takes for a chicken to lay an egg and then to nurture that to get one single egg, I'm less likely to waste it. It's a much more of a precious commodity now. Instead of just, I don't go to the grocery store, buy an egg, and I'm like, oh, that didn't work. Me throw it away. It's okay. I don't want to waste these. Like I needed to make like a quick cake, and I almost bought a cake mix, like a box cake mix. And I looked at it, and I was like, okay, oil and 3 eggs. And I didn't want to use my farm fresh eggs on a box cake mix because I felt like it would be an insult to their eggs.
I totally see where you're coming from.
You're talking to the two right people right now. I mean, it's so true. And once you take care of them and once you get to know them, each one differently, they're part of your family and you value everything that they give you. Like you said, nobody else gives you breakfast. They give you breakfast, lunch, and dinner if you want that and dessert.
Yeah. For me, anyways, it's just really about appreciating where your food comes from. And chickens are one part of that. And, people talk a lot about that in the food movement for cooking, but less so for baking, which is what I find interesting because we don't really think about where ingredients come from when we bake, right? You grab some sugar, you grab your flour, egg, whatever, and boom, it's all in. But really appreciating the butter. If you've ever tried to make your own butter.
Yes.
That's a whole other experiment. It's pretty easy.
Sure. And
I've done it. I mean, it takes a while, but it's really rewarding. I did it once.
It's like the mayonnaise.
The mayonnaise is a whole other story. But that was an equipment failure.
We have done our own mayonnaise, though.
Yeah. But there was one time we had a serious mayonnaise issue, and it was an equipment problem. That's all it was.
Yeah, so. Hand churning butter, not fun. If you've got a KitchenAid, real easy.
Yeah,
exactly,
definitely.
So we have loved talking with you.
Yes, we have.
It has been so much fun. We laughed ourselves silly. We want to thank you for coming on, sharing your story. We want everybody who hears this to go over and follow you and subscribe to you on YouTube because you are so fun and bubbly. I told Holly, and you remind me of me because I've been accused of being very bubbly also. So
I can see it. Yeah, I definitely see it. Yeah. No,
so really,
your YouTube videos are fantastic.
We love
seeing the chickens. We love the voiceovers on Dude. That's always fantastic and hilarious.
So give this girl a follow on Instagram and go subscribe to her YouTube channel. You will not be disappointed.
Nope.
And hopefully you will be hearing her again with some other great recipes that you're bringing us. We definitely love talking with you. So
yeah, thank you so much. And we will look forward to talking to you again soon. You take care.
Thank you for having me, for all your wonderfully weird baking knowledge, baking science, nerdy chicken and egg facts. I got you. I'm here. Thanks, guys, for having me on.
See you later, Christina.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Christina, for coming out and talking with us.
That was a lot of fun.
It was so much fun. Oh my God, we laughed ourselves silly. And her recipes are great. So what are we going to be talking about next week?
Next week, we're going to talk about the queen of all chickens.
What is
that?
The
Brahma.
That is your queen of all chickens,
yes,
definitely.
We're also going to talk with Fiona about setting up for a broody hen, how to set up your coop and your equipment.
That's going to be so good.
Fantastic. We're going to do, for cracking the eggs, the art of the scrambled egg.
Everyone thinks it's so simple, but, there are a lot of little tricks to the trade.
Once you start looking at it, it's really interesting.
Yeah,
the variations.
definitely.
And then we're going to review Eaton hemp bedding.
Can't wait.
Yeah, good stuff.
Okay. So what we should tell everybody to do before we go is
hug your chickens
every day and kiss them too. Don't forget.
We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. If you'd like to see more of us, please follow us on Instagram at Coffee with the Chicken Ladies. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help us grow the podcast, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you'd like to become a patron of the show so that we can bring you even more high-quality chicken content, please visit our Patreon page, patreon.com/coffeewiththechickenladies. Thanks for listening.